As you may have heard, there's a wonderful resource, particularly I feel, for developing countries called Free and Open Source, or Free and Open Source Software, FOSS, or in the case of GIS, Free and Open Source for GIS, FOSS 4G. You've just seen the use of ODK starting at a very large company, GPL. As a side comment, persons who may be stuck with the idea, the old paradigm of using software that has a restricted license, often worry about the fact that FOSS4G is not enterprise ready, meaning it's not suitable for all aspects across a modern GIS. This, I feel, is just fear of the unknown. Haimwant Persaud is the GIS manager in the Department of Natural Resources and the Environment, DNRE, as we call it now. He holds 2 postgraduate degrees and is a doctoral candidate. Though using FOSS, free and open source software, for enterprise GIS has been done in cities like New York or Portland, Oregon, Haimwant has set himself the task of building one here in Georgetown. Like Bernard and Malini and Barry and Dominic before him, it takes courage to walk these new paths. So ladies and gentlemen, Haimwant Persaud.
Good morning. Thanks a lot, Vijay. I would like to, with all protocol adhered to, welcome you all to GIS Day 2015. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers and sponsors of this great event. We have all been advocating for a Guyana version of GIS Day, and here we have it. All right. My presentation this morning is basically focused on building an enterprise GIS using free and open source software for geospatial sciences. That's GIS, remote sensing, data capturing using GPSs, etc. Well, first of all, and Barry had a wonderful part just now where he defined what's a GIS for him. And there's a textbook version, and every GIS specialist out there have their own version of what they call GIS. According to the textbooks, it's a simple system that lets us visualize, or it's a system rather, that lets us visualize, analyze, interpret, and understand relationships among data and their patterns, their trends, how they evolve over time. Now, I work in the public sector. I've been working since 2009 in the public sector. And for making decisions, we all know decisions are basically, in government services, 80% of whatever decisions to be taken is location-based. All right? So I would normally go to and say that GIS is the go-to technology for improving the quality, accuracy, efficiency, and responsiveness for government services, or giving decision makers the who, the what, the when, the why, for them to determine the how. Okay? All right. So my talk here this morning is about enterprise GIS. So what is enterprise GIS and what is it different from the normal GIS that everybody is talking about? The normal GIS that everybody is talking about, it's basically one person sitting at their computer, working with their own information, etc. Now, that is not, if you're working in an organization as large as the University of Guyana, and every department is doing their own thing, how do we know? Or let's say we want to analyze spatial data, what's happening in biodiversity, as what is happening in seas. Somebody is working in biodiversity or using their own projection system, projection and coordinate system that's transforming the wrong earth into flat coordinates. So everybody is working, doing their different things. Now, that's where a GIS, an enterprise GIS comes in. It's basically an integrated system that has many users, and it's run throughout an entire organization. So everybody is working, and they're working on one database, one set of data. So whatever edits they're making, that if I'm working here and Vijay is working over at SEAS, he would see if whatever edit I am making, he would be able to see that instead of having that duplication of work. And This, as I have here, these, the needs that Enterprise GIS is satisfying is ease in data creation, modification, visualization, analysis, and dissemination. Now, an Enterprise GIS, as compared to a normal GIS only the user is seeing what's going on. An Enterprise GIS is basically web-based. So you have, it's basically connection-based, all right? So you have multiple users using whatever apparatus they're using, their phone, their computers, they're using an internet browser, Chrome, whatever, are having access to geospatial information. That's an enterprise system. All right, architecture is basically comprised of the same basics of a normal GIS, which is you have your desktop, you're using your QGIS or ArcGIS, developing data. But that then goes to servers, and then it goes to the clients, or the client that are the users. They're seeing what's going on. I'm sure everybody here has seen a Google map before, or they've used Google Map. That's an enterprise system. All right, so I've talked about enterprise. Let's talk about what's FOSS. So free, as I asked here, free and open source software for geospatial sciences. It's free. It doesn't cost anybody a cent. Now, if we go out there and somebody comes and says, let's build a GIS, when you go to your manager and you show them a quotation for, they have to pay $20 million for 4 licenses of a software, what they will tell you, no, can't do, we have to build roads, we have to build bridges, $20 million for you to get a software to play with. It's not effective, not efficient. So that's where FOSS comes in. And persons are talking that, that it's not good, and Vijay might have stressed on this earlier that when he introduced me, he talked about persons that are having fear of open source software. But I'm here to tell you that when compared, open source software is on par with any commercial software out there. I can speak for myself. I was trained in Esri software, and I ventured into open source area, where the same thing that I can do with an Esri application and Esri desktop software, I can do the same thing using Quantum GIS or UDIG. All right, so implementing an EGIS, it has the same basic components of normal GIS, which you have the hardware, the software, the people to run it. You have to deal with procedures, you have to get data and application. That's the only difference between the personal GIS and the enterprise GIS. However, the majority of our costs implementing an enterprise solution is in the software. 50% of all costs of implementation is within software alone, because you have to pay for databases, which, for example, one license for maybe, my figures are very old. So one license for an enterprise server SQL might cost an entity $100,000 US. If we have to get 10 software or 10 license, that's $1 million US. That's 200 million Guyana dollars. What can we do in Guyana with 200 million Guyana dollars? A lot of things. All right? So if we can eliminate that cost, implementing a GIS and carrying this technology forward would become simpler, because we are creating jobs for our people, and, well, I will not advise anybody to go slow on their hardware. Let them buy the hardware. That's needed. All right. At the DNRE, we have ventured off creating an enterprise solution using, or we had these certain goals. One was to create interactive and analytical capabilities of data that are stored at different locations. So the DNRE, you guys will know that, or if you don't, it's comprised of the Guyana Forestry Commission, Lands and Surveys, GGMC, Protected Areas, Wildlife Division, etc. Each one of these house their own GIS unit as personal GIS. Now we want the transfer of data, because everybody is working in their own niche and they're creating their own data, but that's not shared. So that's where we came in with the enterprise solution. We have also as a goal the geoprocessing of relation data. How can we compare where a mining land intersects with forest concession? Now, the architecture of such a system is based in databases, GIS software, their interface, how we deliver that information, and how we access it. And this is the connection. We go from our databases, which is based on Postgres and PostGIS. That's all open source, all free. You can download it, install it in your computer, and start using it. GeoServer EpiCollect, as my friend would, from GPL talked about ODK, EpiCollect is another solution which is more user-friendly, I would say. And we have ODK also. EpiCollect has a two-way communication with our database, so you can collect data from the database to your handheld device and back and forth. We have our services, which are normally the the WMS, that's the web mapping services. That's when you see a map. Or you have the feature services, where you can create, if you want, you can go and take a photo or a point of a garbage dump and just send it back to our servers. That's what we call a feature service. And our data delivery and access is via Amazon for image processing and QGIS. We also have our client-based applications, which are built on open source, open layers, GeoNode, and Leaflet. All right. So what are the benefits? We have, number one, is cost come down. You have 50% of your enterprise solution gone. So if it costs you $60 million, if you use open source and it costs you $60 million, if you are using proprietary software, it will cost you $120 million. All right? It gives you independence, meaning that you can build on top of what you have there because the source codes are available. You can build on top. You can make it better. You can customize it for yourself. You have security. You have the ability, well, I talked about that already, and the availability of efficient and low-cost software. This example, I just stick it in there with the 100,000 for one seat license of my SQL server. All right. Persons out there, and anytime anybody talk about GIS, they refer to a proprietary, or persons think that it's a proprietary company, that ArcGIS or Mapinfo, etc. Now, anytime we say we're going to build a GIS, somebody swoops in and says, all right, good, we're going to build it with ArcGIS. And then when we get the bill, it's like so expensive, and then you have to pay maintenance license. So one of the myths that they will come and say to us is that FOSS is not ready for desktop or end user application. It's only good for background, that is server-based transactions. That is not true. They also say that there is no support. Well, if there's no support and you want to implement GIS in Guyana and you want to go open source, I am here. All right? It's not good for mission critical application. That's a lie again. And it can't be good if it's free. Well, I leave that to you. All right. I want to thank you all for coming here. I want to echo the sentiments of the Vice Chancellor, Deputy Vice Chancellor, that we can make Guyana better. We don't want to hear that Guyana is a third world country. I don't want to hear it. I hate to hear it also. I think we can do better. We are on par, education-wise, implementation-wise, with every other country. All we need to do is to start using the resources that we have. One of our biggest challenges is that we don't have enough of this, right? Or we're now getting access to it. But we don't need to pay $4 million Guyana dollars for one licensed software, right? We can go and save that $4 million, and we can start implementing GIS in our schools, in our offices, trying to use spatial data to make better decisions. All right, thank you.